One of the things that the Taoiseach tells us repeatedly is that the economic crisis that we are experiencing is largely due to international factors which are outside the control of the government. And some of that is true, but there are some things that are within our control. And one of the things which is within our control is the state of our own country's industrial relations. Now, we are now facing into a spate of strikes over the next couple of weeks. Tomorrow, the Civil and Public Service Union will take strike action, closing every tax office, social welfare office. Indeed, our own hard-working staff here in Leinster House will be on strike. On Saturday, there will be a bus strike because the trade unions are concerned, understandably, that at a time when it's official government policy to increase public transport, bus routes are being dropped and bus workers are being let go, and there's an all-out strike in the buses planned from next Monday. Yesterday, the Irish Congress of Trade Unions took a decision that it is going to ballot for strike action for an all-out strike on the 30th of March. And on Saturday, we had 120,000 workers on the streets of Dublin. Now, the anger that is being felt by these workers, I think, is understandable when you consider that the lowest paid worker in a hospital is having her wages cut, while this week the Minister for Health announces that the highest paid people in our health system, hospital consultants, are to get a huge increase. And that increase is announced on the very day that the HSE announces that it is going to cut frontline services. Now, on top of our banking problem, on top of the job losses, on top of the overall problems we have in our country, the last thing we need now is a period of industrial unrest and of strikes. And they can be avoided. And the way to avoid them is to talk and to get agreement on the issues that are of concern to people. The General Secretary of the Congress of Trade Unions was on radio this morning saying that he is willing to talk. The Taoiseach says he'll talk to the trade unions, but only after he has put the pension levy through the House. When you've done that, Taoiseach, there won't be much left to talk about, because the bill that you're putting through the House doesn't allow for any flexibility subsequently in discussions that you might have. So can I make this suggestion to you? Will you suspend the putting of the legislation through the Houses, have the discussions with the trade unions which they're willing to have with you, at least make some adjustments to that levy to make it more fair? Everybody in this House understands that there are some things that are manifestly unfair, inconsistent and anomalous in that whole pension levy arrangement. At least attempt to reach agreement on those issues, get changes to it before the legislation is enacted and the door is closed on it, and avoid the strikes which are perfectly avoidable if discussions take place with the trade unions representing the workers concerned. Councillor, I think the Taoiseach is going to have to make up his mind what way he's going to handle the crisis that we now have. Taoiseach, you can't come in here 1 minute and say that you want to bring everybody with you and invite the opposition to be constructive. And every time the opposition is constructive, you then swipe out with a partisan kick in our direction. At the same time, you cannot come along and say you want to have discussions with the social partners. And when they engage in discussions with you, and in fact when they reach agreement with you on the objective to be achieved, which is a 2 billion cut in public expenditure, you then drop the detail into them after midnight and don't allow time for them to discuss it and to consider it and to reach agreement with you on it. You can't have it both ways. Now, you are in a situation right now where, first of all, trade unions are saying to you they're willing to talk to you about this. I heard the General Secretary of Congress this morning effectively saying that, yes, they're willing to talk, they're willing to reach agreement, they're willing to compromise. They want changes made in this levy. Now, you're saying, oh, you'll talk to them all right, but you'll talk to them when it's a done deal. You'll talk to them when the legislation enacting the levy has gone through the House and when it cannot be changed. And if you take that approach, you are going to end us up in a situation of industrial strife. You already had 120,000 angry people on the streets last Saturday. You have a spate of strikes coming up now. This country's reputation is on the line, and it is of concern to all of us. And in addition to all of the things that is out there in the international community, which is damaging our reputation, the last thing we need is that Ireland is closed down, that Ireland is on strike, that there are strikes in this sector and in that sector and on the other sector. And I'm saying this as somebody who has already expressed to the trade union movement my concern that there should be restraint and that there should be a cautious approach taken to the way in which these matters are progressed. But the problem, Taoiseach, is this, is that if you maintain 1 minute saying I'm open for talks and I want to do it by agreement, and the next minute you can't resist the temptation to come in, roll up your sleeves and show what a strong man you are because you think that this is somehow going to get you some kind of... That's not going to do it. Your handling of the industrial relations situation is going to end up with us having strikes, with us having industrial strife, with us having unnecessary grief, and you can avoid that, Taoiseach. This is avoidable. We don't have to have a spate of strikes right across the country if you talk with the people who are willing to talk with you about it, and if you do that honestly and fairly and in a way that is willing to reach agreement with them. The problem up to now is that you're not willing to have that kind of engagement, and I strongly suggest that you change tack on this, that you go talk to them, and that you try and avoid some of these strikes.